Okay, hopefully you got the polynomial equation vocabulary sheet set up okay. And now today we're going to start with the factoring notes. Okay, and this is the part that we're going to be doing. Now if you notice, this barely fits on the top and bottom of this page. So what you're going to do is take your sheet that you have and you are going to fold this in half long ways so that it looks like this. And then you are going to have to trim off the bottom and the top as close as you can so that it will fit into your notebook. Okay, so it'll barely fit in there like it is. So you will have to trim that up. Okay, and I'm trying to figure out how to show you this because it doesn't want to cooperate. Okay, to solve by factoring. So you may want to take a second and pause and write this down. You have solved quadratics by factoring in the past. Now we're going to solve polynomials that are a little bit bigger. So you first want to write the equation in general form, which means you set it equal to 0. Factor out any common factors. Factor the remaining polynomial. Set each factor equal to 0 and solve. And then check each answer. Oh, let's go back a minute. When you are doing this, and I really need another hand, let me see if I can hold with one hand and show you with the other. So what we're going to do is take this, and just like we did the vocabulary page, you're going to make a glue flap here. Fold this just there. Put you a bead of glue, down through here on this side. Then when you put it into your notebook, you're just going to put that part in. The little tab is what's going to go in. And then that way when we do this, notice you've got your notes, you have your examples, this will be your checkpoint, and then you'll have extra room and paper to write some more notes or more examples, whatever you need there. Okay, so that's how you're going to glue that in. So wait till you get done though, so that you're not trying to glue in and write with it wet, or just glue. You can glue and be very careful. So there was your factoring step. So if you need to, again, pause there and get all of those written down. Okay, so now we can do an example. Sorry, I'm a bad videographer. Eventually, hopefully, I'll get a little bit better. But the first problem here is 27x cubed equals 243. 27x cubed equals 243. So the first step is to get it in general form so that it equals 0. So if we set it equal to 0, we have 27x cubed minus 243 equals 0. Now I know I talk fast a lot. You can always pause, write, and come back. Then you're going to factor out the 27 is the largest thing you can factor out. So you get 8x cubed minus 9. Now I didn't notice till I had already made the examples. I don't know if I meant to do something different because but it's okay because crazy equations happen in real life and things aren't always nice and neat. Right here we have 27 equals 0 is the first factor. Well, 27 doesn't equal 0, so we just don't have an answer there. X cubed minus 9 equals 0. Move the 9 over. X cubed equals 9. Take the cube root of both sides, and x equals the cube root of 9. So that's not a pretty answer, but that's what happens on that one. Okay? And then the next example, 4x cubed minus 12x squared equals 9x minus 27. Okay, so we want on here to get it in general form. So you've got 4x cubed minus 12x squared minus 9x plus 27 equals 0. When you move that 9x over, it becomes negative. When you move the negative 27 over, it becomes positive. Then you're going to factor. And since there's 4 of them, we factor by grouping. So if we take the first 2 together and then the last 2 together, the first 2 we can factor out of 4x squared. So we have 4x squared times x minus 3. Then over here we can take out a negative 9, and we have negative 9 times x minus 3. So now the 2 match. The 2 parentheses match. If they don't match, either it won't factor or you did something wrong. So then the x minus 3 is a factor, and what's left in front of it is a factor, 4x squared minus 9. So at this point, you could set each one equal to 0, or I factored this one again in this. You could do it either way. You still end up with the same answers. This is a difference of squares that you should remember. So that factors into 2x plus 3 times 2x minus 3. So we have 3 terms, 2x plus 3, 2x minus 3, and x minus 3. Set each one of those equal to 0, and you get x equals negative 3 halves, x equals positive 3 halves, x equals 3. So those are your 3 answers, and then you could go back in and check them and make sure that they are correct. Okay. Next, you need to turn in your book to page 121 and do the first checkpoint, which is 9x to the 4th minus 12x squared equals 0. So the best thing to do would be to pause the video and go work that one out, and then come back. Okay, hopefully you've worked this one out, but you have 3x squared is what will factor out of both of them. Then you have 3x squared. When you factor that out, you get 3x squared minus 4. Then set each factor equal to 0. 3x squared equals 0. Divide by 3. X squared equals 0, so x equals 0. Then on your other one, 3x minus 4 equals 0. 3x squared equals 4. X squared equals 4/3. So when you get rid of that x squared here, you have to square root both sides. When you square root, that gives you plus or minus. The square root of 4 over 3. The square root of 4 is 2 over the square root of 3. Remember, you have to rationalize the denominator here. So you multiply by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. So you get plus or minus 2 square root of 3 over 3. So you have 3 answers here. You have 0, positive 2 square root of 3 over 3, and negative 2 square root of 3 over 3. Okay? So then go on to page 122. Do those 2 checkpoints. And I'm going to write them on another piece of paper because I can't show you that very well. So pause the video, go to page 122, and do that checkpoint, and then come back. Okay, these would be the checkpoints in the middle of the page under example 2. Okay, hopefully you have already worked this out on your own and been successful. You can always know if you're successful or not by checking your answers. Put the answers that you get back in and see if it gives you 0 in this case. So we have 4 terms here. So I'm going to factor by grouping again. So this group, I have x cubed minus 5x squared. They both have an x squared. So if I factor out an x squared, I'm left with x minus 5. These both have a factor of 2. So when I factor out in 2, I factor out in negative 2 because this first one is negative. So then I have negative 2 times x minus 5 because negative 2 times negative 5 is 10. So when we talk about factors, remember we're talking about multiplying things together. Factors are when you multiply to get something. So now these match, these parentheses match. So that's one factor. And then my other factor is what's left in the fronts, x squared minus 2. So what's here, the matching factors are there, and then what's left over in front is what goes here. So then we're going to set each factor equal to 0. So x minus 5 equals 0 gives me an answer of 5. X squared minus 2 equals 0. That's not a perfect square, so I'm going to move that 2 over. If I take the square root of both sides, x is plus or minus the square root of 2. So you have 3 answers here, 5, positive square root of 2, and negative square root of 2. So that's A. Now you want to go to B. So do B. Pause the video. Go try B, which is 6x cubed minus 27x squared minus 54x equals 0, and then come back. Okay, all of this will divide by 3, and it will divide by an x. So if I factor out of 3x, I'm left with 2x squared minus 9x minus 18 equals 0. So then we have 3x, and we have to factor this quadratic. Now to factor that quadratic, you have to go back and review factoring quadratics maybe, but this one factors into 2x plus 3 and x minus 6. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 6 is negative 12. Plus 3x gives us negative 9. And then the last is negative 18. Okay, so if you don't remember how to do that, you may have to go back and review that. One method that a lot of Algebra 2 teachers use anymore is the divide and slide. So if that's something you just don't remember and need a refresher on, let me know sometime, and we can work on that. You can stay after school or just let me know during work time. So this gives us 3 factors, 3x, 2x plus 3, and x minus 6. If we set each of those equal to 0, the first one gives us x equals 0. The second one gives us x equals negative 3 over 2. And then the last one gives us 6. So this one also has 3 answers. Okay. Now, your assignment for this one is to do page 128. Page 128. Numbers 5 through 15 odd. Page 128, numbers 5 through 15 odd is the ones you want to do there. If you need to do some extra examples, you've got some space in your notebook there. You can look some things up, and hopefully this helps you out, and I will be back tomorrow.